She thought he was just a drifter until he returned as her boss with a lesson she'd never forget. The scorching sun beat down on the cracked asphalt of the dealership lot in Stockton, California. The rows of cars shimmered under the relentless heat, their glossy exteriors masking the financial struggles beneath. Inside the cramped office, Alana Hensley, the new manager, adjusted the collar of her crisp blazer. She was 38, sharp-eyed, and determined to make her mark. Alana had been brought in as the dealership's last hope, a no-nonsense leader to clean up the mess that years of poor management had left behind. Alana wasn't here to make friends. The dealership's finances were bleeding, and she wasn't about to let her career sink with it. She'd already implemented strict sales quotas and cut back on lenient policies that let customers wander without committing to a purchase. Her latest mission, to rid the lot of loiterers. To her, they weren't just harmless onlookers, they were distractions, taking up space and wasting time. If she was going to save this place, she needed discipline. That day, as Alana looked out the window, she noticed an older man meandering through the lot. His faded denim jacket and scuffed boots stood out against the polished surroundings. He moved slowly, almost thoughtfully, as if he wasn't in a hurry to leave. Alana's lips tightened. "Who does he think he is?" she muttered under her breath. This wasn't the first time she'd seen someone like him. To her, he was just another drifter with nothing better to do than waste her team's time. Without a second thought, she grabbed her sunglasses and stormed outside, heels clicking against the pavement. "Excuse me," she called out sharply, her tone cutting through the heavy afternoon air. The man turned slowly, his weathered face framed by a mess of silver hair. He gave her a faint smile but said nothing. "Can I help you with something?" Alana said, her voice firm, almost rehearsed. "We don't allow browsing here unless you're planning to make a purchase." The man tilted his head as if her words amused him. "Just looking," he replied calmly, his voice deep and measured. "Well, we're not a museum," Alana snapped. "If you're not buying, I'll have to ask you to leave." For a moment, the man stood there, studying her with eyes that seemed far too knowing. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away, his boots crunching softly against the gravel as he exited the lot. Alana watched him go, a small sense of satisfaction washing over her. One less distraction, she thought, brushing her hands off as if she'd just handled an inconvenience. But little did she know, this wasn't the last she'd see of him, and the next time, it wouldn't be on her terms. The following morning, Alana arrived at the dealership feeling confident. She'd spent the evening reviewing spreadsheets and planning strategies to boost sales. She even envisioned herself as the savior of the dealership, turning a dying business into a success story. But beneath her determination, there was a faint sense of unease she couldn't quite shake. Something about the older man from the day before lingered in her mind, though she refused to dwell on it. As the day progressed, Alana made her usual rounds, ensuring every employee was on task. She barked orders at the sales team, adjusted price tags on display vehicles, and even berated a junior employee for allowing a potential customer to leave without securing a deposit. "We can't afford to lose sales," she snapped. Midway through the morning, she noticed a small gathering near the entrance of the lot. Curious and slightly annoyed, she stepped outside to investigate. There he was again. The older man. This time, he wasn't alone. Flanking him were two sharply dressed individuals, a woman in a tailored navy suit and a man with a clipboard. Both exuded authority, their presence commanding attention from the staff and even a few passing customers. The older man stood at the center, his demeanor as calm as before, but his eyes seemed sharper now, almost assessing the scene before him. Alana's stomach twisted. She didn't like surprises, and this certainly qualified. Masking her discomfort, she strode toward them, her heels clicking with purpose. "Excuse me," she began, her tone clipped but polite. "Can I help you with something?" The woman in the suit turned to face her, offering a professional but tight-lipped smile. "We're here for a review of the property. I'm sure Mr. Eastwood can explain the rest." The name didn't register immediately, but Alana's focus shifted to the older man, who now seemed far less ordinary. "I believe we met yesterday," he said, his voice calm but laced with something she couldn't quite place. "Amusement, maybe. I'm Clint Eastwood, and this lot, well, it belongs to me now." For a moment, Alana stood frozen, her mind racing to process what she'd just heard. Her composure cracked. "You wait, you're the new owner," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's right," he said, his tone unwavering, his eyes locking on hers. And for the first time, Alana realized just how much power he held in this moment. But the gravity of her mistake hadn't fully sunk in yet. And when it did, it would be too late to undo the damage. The air felt heavier as Clint Eastwood's name reverberated in Alana's mind. The man standing before her wasn't just another wanderer or someone killing time. He was a living legend, an icon. And now, her boss. Her throat tightened as she replayed their interaction from the previous day, realizing just how badly she had misstepped. Clint didn't seem angry, though. If anything, there was a faint glimmer of amusement in his eyes. It was the look of someone who had seen far more than anyone else in the room and didn't need to raise his voice to make an impact. I didn't know," Alana managed to say, her voice faltering. "If I'd known who you were," she began, but Clint interrupted, his tone even. "Would it have made a difference?" Alana opened her mouth to respond but quickly shut it again. He was right, and she knew it. Judging people by appearances was a habit she'd never questioned until now. The executives exchanged subtle glances, their expressions unreadable, but the tension in the air was palpable. Finally, the woman in the navy suit broke the silence. "Mr. Eastwood wanted to visit unannounced yesterday to see how things are run here. He believes it's the best way to assess a business's true character." The words hit Alana like a slap. Clint hadn't been wandering aimlessly. He'd been observing. Watching how she managed the lot. And she'd failed his unspoken test in the worst way possible. "I was only trying to," she began, but Clint held up a hand, silencing her. "I'm not interested in excuses," he said firmly. "I care about how people are treated here, customers, staff, everyone. Respect doesn't cost a dime, but it's worth everything. Remember that." Alana's face burned with shame, her mind spinning with the weight of his words. The employees were silent, likely wondering what would happen next. But Clint wasn't done yet. And the lesson he was about to teach her would leave an unforgettable mark. Clint Eastwood took a step forward, his calm presence somehow commanding more authority than if he had raised his voice. Alana felt rooted to the spot, every fiber of her being aware of the employees watching, the executive standing by, and the weight of her mistake hanging in the air. "I've been around long enough to know that how you treat people matters more than the numbers on a spreadsheet," Clint said, his voice steady but purposeful. "This dealership isn't just about selling cars. It's about building trust and creating an environment where people feel valued whether they're buying or just looking." Alana glanced at the sales team gathered near the entrance. Some avoided her eyes, others looked at her with quiet judgment. She prided herself on being tough, no nonsense, the one who would whip this place into shape. But now, Under Clint's scrutiny, her approach felt cold and transactional, like she'd missed the point entirely. Clint turned to address the group. Yesterday, I walked this lot, looked at these cars, and watched how things operate here. And what I saw told me more about this place than any quarterly report ever could. I saw fear. I saw people too worried about making a mistake to feel proud of what they do. His words cut deep not just for Alana, but for the entire staff. A nervous murmur rippled through the group. Clint's eyes landed on Alana again, sharp but not unkind. When leadership is about intimidation, it trickles down. Customers feel it. Employees feel it. And no business survives on fear. Alana's shoulders sagged under the weight of his words. She wanted to defend herself, to explain that her tough approach was born from desperation to save the dealership. But deep down, she knew he was right. She'd made fear her strategy, and it had backfired spectacularly. The woman in the navy suit stepped in, her tone professional but with a subtle edge. Mr. Eastwood values integrity above all else. That's why this dealership is under his name now. We're here to fix what's broken, and that starts with ensuring the right leadership is in place. Alana's stomach dropped. Was this it? Had she blown her shot completely? I can do better, she blurted, her voice cracking slightly. I've made mistakes, but I can fix them. I can show you I'm capable of leading this team the right way. Clint studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then finally, he spoke. Everyone deserves a second chance. But make no mistake, this is your only one. Prove to me you understand what respect means, and maybe you'll stay in that chair a little longer. But respect wasn't just a word, it was a choice. One she'd have to make every single day from this point forward. The tension in the room began to dissipate, but Alana's nerves didn't. Clint's words echoed in her mind as she walked back to her office. She shut the door quietly behind her, leaning against it for a moment to collect her thoughts. A second chance. The words felt heavier than she'd imagined. She knew what was at stake, not just her job, but the livelihoods of the staff who relied on her leadership. For the rest of the day, she observed the dealership with fresh eyes. She watched how her employees interacted with customers and each other. The truth was unavoidable, Clint was right. The team was operating on eggshells, too afraid to step out of line. Conversations were curt, smiles forced, and even the sales felt like transactions devoid of trust. The weight of her approach hit her like a freight train. She hadn't built a team, she'd built a house of cards, ready to collapse at the first strong gust. That evening, Alana stayed late drafting a plan to turn things around. It wasn't about numbers anymore. It was about creating an atmosphere where people felt valued, where customers wanted to stay and browse without the pressure to buy immediately. By morning, she called an all-staff meeting. The employees shuffled in, their faces weary. No one knew what to expect after the previous day's drama. Alana stood in front of them, her usual sharp demeanor replaced by something softer. She cleared her throat. I owe all of you an apology, she began, her voice steady but carrying the weight of sincerity. I've been running this place the wrong way. I put too much pressure on all of you, and I've created an environment where fear runs the show. That's not leadership, and it's not fair to you or our customers. A few eyebrows raised, some of the employees exchanged glances, but Alana pressed on. I want to change that, she said. Starting today, we're focusing on what really matters, respect for each other and for the people who walk through our doors. This is a fresh start for all of us. The room was silent for a moment. Then, A lone clap broke out from the back of the room. It was Derek, one of the junior sales associates. Slowly, the rest of the team joined in, their applause tentative but genuine. Alana felt a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. But rebuilding trust wasn't going to happen overnight. It would take action, consistency, and a willingness to prove she meant every word. Over the next few weeks, Alana threw herself into the work of rebuilding trust not just with her team, but with the customers who had become wary of the dealership's pushy tactics. Her first move was simple but impactful. She abolished the unspoken rule that discouraged browsing without commitment. "Let them look," she told the sales team during a morning meeting. "We're here to guide them, not pressure them. If someone wants to walk the lot for an hour, we let them. If they leave without buying, that's okay. The goal is to make them feel welcome enough to come back." It was a small change, but the effect was immediate. Customers lingered longer, conversations felt more genuine, and the team began to relax. Alana didn't stop there. She took time to sit down with each employee individually, asking about their experiences, challenges, and ideas for improvement. At first, the meetings were met with skepticism. Some employees spoke cautiously, as if waiting for a trap. But Alana really listened. And it wasn't long before the walls started coming down. One afternoon, Derek, the junior associate, approached her after a sale. "I just wanted to say thanks," he said awkwardly. "Things feel different around here." "Better." Alana smiled. "That's the idea, Derek. Keep up the good work." But the real test came when Clint Eastwood returned. Unannounced, one sunny Thursday afternoon, he strolled through the lot, much like he had that first day, observing everything. Alana spotted him immediately. Her heart skipped a beat. She didn't rush to him, though. She let him walk. She let him see. When Clint finally approached the showroom, he gave her a slight nod. His eyes scanning the lot behind him. "Not bad," he said simply. It wasn't much, but from Clint Eastwood, it was practically a standing ovation. But Clint wasn't here just to observe. He had one last surprise up his sleeve that would test everything Alana had learned. As Clint Eastwood stepped into the showroom, the usual hum of activity seemed to quiet. Employees glanced his way, their expressions a mix of awe and curiosity. Alana approached him with a composed demeanor, though her heart raced. She'd been working hard to turn things around. But she had no idea what to expect next. "You've made some improvements," Clint said, pausing in front of a display of new models. His eyes schemed over the polished cars, before finally resting on Alana. There was no criticism in his tone, but it was clear that he wasn't easily impressed. "But I want to see if you've truly got what it takes to turn this place around. You're going to face challenges, Alana. You need to be prepared." Alana nodded, her resolve strengthening with each passing second. She had no illusions about the path ahead. But for the first time, she felt ready. "I understand," she replied, her voice steady. "And I'm ready." Clint's gaze softened slightly, a faint smirk appearing at the corners of his lips. "Good. Because this is just the beginning." The lesson had been learned. Now, the real work began.